Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What did you think of the opening and our speakers? Can we give them some acknowledgement? This conference has been a catalyst for ensuring operational dominance because of the unique engagement opportunities it affords. Each of us here understands that for every call to action that we have heard, especially over the last few months, we've also heard the need to strengthen our partnerships. Live engagements such as ITSEC will always have a place within communities who have a desire to continuously grow. And this is especially true for this community that has as much at stake as we do. If we were to package up ITSEC and read the back of its label, the ingredient list would be lengthy, too long to even fit. We would see 120 papers, 31 tutorials, 40 special events, many professional development workshops, over 450 exhibitors, 23 serious games, and so much more. These high-quality ingredients, as impressive as they are, they're just half of the story, because those are the whats of the conference. But the power and the benefits are realized when we examine the why. The M&S solutions that have been used to train our servicemen and women have had a broad and highly personal impact to each of us in this room. For those of you currently serving in uniform and those of you who have served previously, this could not be more personal. And for all the rest of us, we're just one degree of separation away. So for any who might question why, we have lots of answers. For me, the answers to why this conference are in this picture. And I imagine many of you also have pictures that tell a similar story. This airplane, despite its age, is still a powerful metaphor for this conference, our collective why, our need to find answers, our commitment to training to new paradigms afforded by those answers. Like this conference, this plane has an inter-service and an international partnership history, just like ITSEC. Originally purchased for the Army and designated as C-47, these aircraft participated in Operation Overlord to transport paratroopers, a critical component of the Normandy invasion. These planes were transferred to the Marines, and they were later purchased by the Navy, designated as R-4D. This photo was taken in Antarctica and was part of Operation Deep Freeze, whose impetus was the International Geophysical Year, a collaborative effort among 40 nations to study weather systems, glacial movements, and employ dual-use technology for both scientific and military applications. Operation Deep Freeze continues today, commanded through Joint Task Force Support Forces Antarctica through the 13th Air Force. This photo represents the critical industry engagement that was necessary to modify these planes with skis and jet-assisted takeoff, but it also represents the military and industry partnership that ensured that these Goonie birds could not just land, but also take off from the South Pole, affectionately referred to as the ice. Why all this effort? The members supporting these multi-service and multinational missions went looking for answers, literally to the end of the world. Getting answers is always our mission. It's a critical element of ensuring operational dominance. And we rely on our preparation and our training to ensure the answers do not come at a cost. ITSEC 2025 offers all of us the chance to attend hundreds of opportunities for learning across subjects that are advancing in a paces measuring in days, especially in an age of generative and agentic AI. At this conference, we can answer questions about how we will redefine expertise and develop strategic partnerships with AI agents. It will require a shift in our mindset, but make no mistake, critical thinking and conversations will matter, especially as we shift from viewing generative AI as a mere tool to embracing it as a true teammate. This transition requires not just technological expertise, but also a deep trust in the capabilities, which is cultivated through dedicated training, the kind offered here. It directs us to train on it, as well as train with it, to ensure we recognize any limitations and avoid mishaps. This was true for the environment on the ice. The effective training offered to the pilot of this aircraft enabled him to critically think his way through a takeoff mishap caused by a JADO malfunction when only 3 of the 4 jets fired. The fate of his airplane is officially documented as crash. Final resting place recorded as Davis Glacier. But the pilot, my dad, and his crew all came home safely 2 years before I was born. This story embodies the essence of resilience, preparedness, and critical thinking, qualities that we must all strive to integrate into our work with AI and much more. So I encourage each of you to take full advantage of the wealth of opportunities available here at ITSEC. Engage in the sessions, network with your peers, and push the boundaries of what you believe is possible. And together we can forge a future into the AI unknown with augmented intelligence as a trusted partner in our journey towards innovation and excellence, optimizing training, ensuring operational dominance. Your program chair, Dr. Kelly Hale, has led a team of over 300 volunteers to create a massive program and help you access it via a series of conference personas that are available on the ITSEC website. You will also find the mobile app useful, so be sure to download it. We also come together at ITSEC to recognize the best and brightest in our community, starting with our 2025 ITSEC Fellow, Dr. Robert Sottelaire of Excellent. One of our most important missions is to invest in our community. This year, NTSA will award $190,000 in scholarships, including the Rear Admiral Fred Lewis postgraduate scholarships, the Leonard P. Gollobin postgraduate scholarships, the CMSP and the Barbara McDaniel undergraduate scholarships, and for the first time this year, we also honor our friend and previous NTSA President, Rear Admiral James Robb, with a scholarship dedicated to supporting underserved communities, sponsored by his family and awarded in his memory. Each of our scholarship winners will be recognized at our awards banquet on Thursday evening. So I invite each of you to engage with our scholarship awardees, as well as our teachers and students in attendance, and our Serious Games developers also at our STEM pavilion on the show floor. We also recognize the best up-and-coming leaders in the modeling and simulation community, known as the NTSA Top Under 40. And as part of ITSEC's tradition of giving back, there is still time to register and participate in tomorrow's 5K run. The proceeds from this event support the Camaraderie Foundation and our STEM initiatives. And now for today's industry keynote, I get to introduce someone who's made a great impact on my career. You all can certainly read Bob Ritchie's bio in the program, but there's so much more to him than what is listed there. When I first met him years ago, he was VP of our software engineering practice, His team of software developers and my team of instructional designers developed a transformative cloud-native video knowledge sharing platform. We grounded the solution in UX and CX best practices and a shared understanding of human-centered design. Bob has always been a champion for those of us in training and education who are transforming our practice in concert with the transformations we have seen in the software, digital engineering, and modeling and simulation practices. He's helped carry the message that traditional training approaches do not support transformation. And if we insist on using them, we put all of the intended benefits of the transformation at unacceptable risk. Bob brings talent and passion and energy and kindness to every design and solution. He is so sharp and clever, and his energy and enthusiasm are unmatched. He's been awarded many titles by Washington Exec, and he has recently been reappointed as our Chief Technology Officer. But truthfully, I think it would suit him just fine to be referred to as Chief of Bobs. He is the engineer's engineer with a Ted Lasso spirit. And every time I engage with him, I learn something, and I'm sure today will be no exception. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage our industry keynote, my CTO and friend, Mr. Bob Ritchie.
Wow. Thanks, Annie, for that introduction. I'm going to try and live up to at least some of what she said there. So the title of my talk today is a DevOps term. As Annie said, I'm a software engineer by trade, polyglot software developer. So get better at getting better as a DevOps term. It means never being satisfied with how good you're doing. I'll also, throughout the talk, throw in a lot of buzzwords and anecdotes in the Agile and DevOps world, so I apologize in advance. And as a CTO, you will also hear quite a bit about AI throughout, but I promise to bring it back, as Andy said, to continual education, training, and modeling in STEM. So I like to start with why, just like Annie. We're both Simon Sinek files, or cinephiles, however you say that, with why. Why am I talking? So I have 20 plus years now, wow, that's wild to think, of experience in the cloud, data, AI space, synthetic training as part of that, a core part of that actually. My growing up within the company at SAIC started out on a unicorn of a program that not only handled the development and operations, but the runtime fielding, the mine warfare school, and the training all the way throughout the program. So got firsthand experience with the benefits in the late 90s and early 2000s of integrating and breaking down those silos, a lot of what was discussed today by our honorable panels. I also have the great benefit of 20 plus years in tactical decision aids within the specifically undersea mine warfare to get started, then branching out to all branches of the military. And then I will say branching out into other aspects outside of the Department of Defense and Department of War, as tactical decision aids are not limited to just that scope. It's really an important lesson learned early in my career. But then command and control and really what that means at its core has served me well, and so I want to share some of those thoughts with you all today as well, as the principles in asymmetric warfare. I'm also a community practice leader, so I really appreciate NTSA, NDIA, and everyone who's putting on industry events like this. The ability for us to come together, the problems we face as a nation, whether we're talking war fighting or in the federal civilian communities, Department of Justice, and law enforcement, the problems are way too big for any one group, any one entity, any one person, any one company to solve. So the idea of community, the idea of industry associations is really paramount to how we get after these problems. And then, as Annie said, recently reappointed title of CTO at SAIC, but yeah, they would not let me use Chief of Bobs, but I will die on the hill of that is my official headshot for the company, my little dinosaur with extender arms leveraging the power of technology. All right, so I'm going to start out with a Top Gun quote, the need for speed. We've heard it a lot today. What is driving this existential need for speed within the ecosystem? One of them is the fact that the exponential increase in rate of adoption and rate of innovation in the technology space is not a near-term anomaly. A lot of times you'll see graphics online or through consulting firms that say like, hey, look at how fast Netflix took to get to 1 million users, and then maybe all the way Facebook, Instagram, all of those paired up against how fast it took for ChatGPT to get to 1 million users, right? That's the most common graph we see. But that's not an anomaly. If you stretch that back 50 or 60 years, you see that same exponential speed up in terms of rate of adoption. What does that mean from an operational dominance standpoint? So why do we have a need for speed? I love the way that was put earlier on the panel, that it's not just, hey, we need to go faster, hey, we need to optimize, but towards an objective, and that operational dominance objective. And I especially love how Space Force put it earlier with the concept of vector, because for the math nerds, right, a vector is not just a speed or a magnitude, it's a magnitude plus a direction. And so I'll steal another anecdote from Simon Sinek. It's kind of the difference in a vision is if I tell everyone to run as fast as they can across the room and put something in their way, they're stopped dead in their tracks. If I say run as fast as you can across the room to the northeast corner and I put a chair in their way, they can easily navigate around the chair and continue to the northeast corner. And the only difference was I gave one set of group a objective, a vision of to where they were going. So speed is a paramount existential imperative to all of us in terms of the speed of innovation, the speed of operational capability, getting to warfighters, getting to law enforcement, in everything we do. But really, it's not just the speed of technology, as has been highlighted so well here today. It's the expertise in using that superior technology. The B-21 example from Secretary Bailey earlier, it's not just being able to crank out new technology or new configurations, as was highlighted earlier, in terms of the speed at which we're looking at being able to adopt and adapt to those new configurations. We need to be able to train our human and machine teams on how to operationalize and use that technology effectively. I will also couch that with, this is kind of a mitigating control, if you will, of the need for speed, is something from the Zen of Python. And again, like I said, software nerds, so you're going to see some of that. One of the lines in the Zen of Python is now is better than never, which really equates nicely to the way Secretary Hegseth put it in the idea of getting an 85% solution that has operational outcomes into our warfighters' hands, or the way Secretary Bailey said it earlier in terms of not requiring 100% of requirements being met at the kind of offset of cost and schedule. However, the mitigating control there is never is often better than right now. And what that means, the reason I put this in here is not a knock at going fast. It's a lot of times when we talk about speed, people think the way to achieve speed is to throw policy out the window completely, to throw regulation out the window completely, to throw discipline out the window completely, and just go fast. And what that is you get back to speed without a direction. You get back to a vector without a direction, and chaos ensues. And so that's what is so critical about this group and this industry event and what it brings together and represents is the importance of being able to balance speed with discipline through modeling in STEM, through training, through continual feedback loops. And that's why I call it DevOps. I know that DevSecOps is the more trendy term, and there's a version of that from Dr. Moreau later in the slides as well. But that is a paramount piece of optimization that needs to be accounted for. Not only how do we introduce innovations working backward from an operational outcome, but how do those innovations meet and change? And this goes to the last bullet on here. Humanity's relationship with data and relationship with technology is continuing to evolve. This is the way we used to think about having to engage with data and from a software perspective. I'm going to go back to command and control software. The way we used to think about that was I need a software system to take my human thoughts and processes and convert them into ones and zeros, and then I need software systems to talk to each other. One of the interesting things about the explosion of generative AI is it's created a near universal runtime discovery language or protocol, if you will, for humans to interact with data in a new and unique way. And now with the advent of MCP and A2A, starting to think of how these machines can interact with machines in a new and runtime discoverable way. And what that means for us, Annie kind of hinted at, is this future of agency, and the human-machine team needs to evolve, needs to adapt. The way we incorporate training into that ecosystem, the way we incorporate that human-machine team and that machine-to-machine team in a way that gives us that operational dominance. And then pictured here on the right-hand side is one of my colleagues who's actually speaking here tomorrow, Jay Meal, call sign Wizard, and you'll get that when you see his beard tomorrow. But the 5 sites of a decision advantage, right? So hindsight, the ability to look backward and understand what has happened. Foresight, the ability to take those models and take that understanding and project it out into the future. Insight, how do you actually draw insight and knowledge from the data that's fused together? Oversight, how do you provide that insight into a command and control overlay so you have oversight of what's going on? And then right sight, because this right sight is really where the rubber meets the road, in my opinion, in modeling and simulation. We were having an informal conversation at breakfast on just the complexity of the modern day systems and how those systems, how much data, how many sensors and effectors all weave together into almost a Gordian knot, and the ability or opportunity to simulate and inject that into a synthetic war game or a live virtual constructive training is growing increasingly complex. The right sight is how do I narrow in on what is the most meaningful and needed pieces of information, and how do I also provide that securely in a collaborative way. And then I'm a Bob Dylan fan, so this is also key, is the need for speed. Everything is always changing. Change is constant, and there's going to be a slide kind of calling back to that later. But the fact that everything is always changing, this is a quote from the Times, they are changing. First one now will later be last. This is not a call for a one-time speed-up event. This is not a industry and government partnership to all of a sudden fix all our problems once and for all and then be done and rest and find ourselves in the same quagmire 20 or 30 years from now. We need to embrace the fact that we need to speed up, we need to go faster, and we need to do it as a systemic cultural change. I'll also, before I hop off the slide, actually, no, I'll go ahead to the next slide. The time is now. Why the time is now? We've heard a lot about the innovative acquisition reform over the last couple of months and really over the past couple of weeks since Secretary Hegseth's speech. Removing those barriers for entry is a unique opportunity for industry to come together. So I will say, as much has been alluded to as the massive cultural change and change management challenge that the government is undertaking, it is beholden to us as industry partners to look ourselves in the mirror and take that same challenge, take that same journey. It will not be an effective outcome if we don't look at our own bureaucracies and our own silos that we've created, whether from incumbency or protectionism. We need to embrace a community model where we are serving as good stewards for what we see on the right-hand side of this graphic, the public-private partnership that is going to be key to unlocking and getting us ahead of the curve and onto next curves. Bias for action. So this is where modeling and sim and training becomes an imperative part of our operationalization of warfighter outcomes. How do we make sure that we don't get stuck in a quagmire of studying a problem for 2 or 3 years, like Secretary Bailey said earlier, all green in terms of system performance of, are my requirements valid? Are my requirements validated? Are my requirements verified? Did I get my requirements out on time? All the while ignoring to some degree the operational challenges that our warfighter are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. The same is true of industry. So I guess this is a mea culpa and a calling us out and a challenge to industry to not embody the exact same thing that we're criticizing within the acquisition system. Don't lean in as contracting officials within your companies to say, hey, this is the way we've always done it, or I can't accept this change, it's too much risk. We need to start to follow the lead of the Department of War and Secretary Hegseth's memo and messaging around moving to understand that every risk is also an opportunity, that we should not be contracting towards compliance. We need to be moving towards operational effectiveness, and that's the risk-based acquisition side. Lastly, I alluded to the acronym of Dr. Moreau, moving from DevOps to, let me see if I can get this right, Int Mod Sim Dev Sec Train Ops. So you heard it here first, although Secretary Bailey said no process will solve the problem, I proved him wrong right there. No, but this is really a call to action of the environment that's been alluded to. The fact that we think of and have historically thought of training as a separate island and modeling and sim as a separate island and command and control as a separate island and embedded cyber physical systems as a separate island. And we've built all these components in separate ecosystems and then expect them to just interoperate magically is one of the systemic challenges that we as industry need to embrace and show up as in a unique way with our government partners, providing secure environments and secure ecosystems that not only work at the unclassed level, the CUI level, but up through secret, top secret, and then laterally across information domains with our coalition forces. If we, to the point of the B-21, if we ramp up the FMS system and we're able to collaborate and provide exquisite weapon systems to our coalition partners for the joint fight and the coalition fight, but we don't ramp up the ability for the software systems to move over there and the training to move over there, we're gonna just be in a fat tail problem that we continue to chase in terms of their ability to be operationally effective as part of a joint coalition force. The redefining of human-machine teaming I alluded to a little bit earlier, but this is really a move from human in the loop to human on the loop as much as possible. I know it's kind of a scary concept. In the software world, we like to think of everything as being able to move to declarative outcomes. So for the world of SREs and sysadmins out there who've grown up with imperative scripting, of having to write out hundreds of thousands of lines of do this, and then do this, then do this, if else, then do this, we have embraced over the last 10 years, it's crazy to think that Kubernetes has been around for 10 years, and no way you were getting out of this talk without me mentioning Kubernetes at least once. The idea of moving to a desired state, the ability to plainly, in human language or in a machine interpretable way, describe my desired state. In the case of Kubernetes, it might be, I always want 5 instances of this web service running, or I always want 10 instances of this background daemon running, or if I say decompose AFSIM and I break apart mission and say, I want these clusters to run these parts of my simulation and pull it together and distribute it on this comms broker for injection into my C2 architecture, the ability to state that cleanly as a declarative state, what if we could get there as a warfighting force? If I said, hey, I want a secure airspace over this part of the first island chain. And from a cognitive load, I was able to state that. So this ties back to one of the first things I ever worked on was institutionalizing or implementing Navy planning logic, something called commander estimate of the situation, and being able to balance enemy courses of action, friendly courses of action, friendly order of battle, enemy order of battle, and all the likely scenarios that an enemy might take and that I might take to plan towards a commander's intent, a commander's objective. That is, sadly, the 20 years ago software that we were working on. It is still not an operational reality. That is something we are on the precipice of being able to address and change, and I look forward to that. So speaking of change, and here's the obligatory DevSecOps loop from Cloud.mil, but change is a constant. This is one of the things that I had the good fortune. I played high school and college basketball and had amazing coaches throughout my life. My high school coach and then my college coach actually exhibited the same behavior of change is constant. They took it to an OCD level, I'll say. They rearranged their office once a month to embody that change is constant. But the real important thing is kind of tying back to that Bob Dylan quote. It is not enough to be the leader. It is not enough to be satisfied with being the best at any one given domain. We as industry and as government need to work together to continually get better at getting better, back to the title of the talk. The human behavior of technology cannot afford to be outpaced by the rapid acceleration of innovation into the ecosystem. We have adversaries that vastly outnumber us in population. We need to be able to lean in to have squeezing more out of our population, out of our coalition forces, to get the most out of technology, to turn our warfighters, our operators into 100x and 200x operational capability, leveraging technology. And that is an imperative of this group. This group needs to work hand in hand with the DevSecOps ecosystem, with the weapons and engineering ecosystem, to field operational capabilities that our warfighters are capable of using. And as those operational changes shift, we need to adapt and evolve at the pace of those shifts, at the pace of that innovation. In saying such, another Simon Sinek book, so I promise I'm not paid by Simon Sinek, just a big fan. I would definitely recommend go out and listening to the audiobook. I won't say read because that's not my generation, we just listen to things. But the operational dominance, picturing it as an infinite game. the idea, and this is true both in warfighting, whether you believe in Cold War I is still ongoing or the current ecosystem is Cold War 2.0, there is no winning in operational dominance. There is getting better at getting better. You stay dominant. You stay ahead by continually improving. The idea of winning in an infinite game has dramatic consequences in terms of winning in an infinite game means the game has ended. Right? That is a situation where we as a planet cannot exist if the game is over. Right? So the idea of winning an infinite game is a quagmire unto itself. The quote on here, so I paraphrased because the original quote was software is made by people made by people for people, so digital talent matters. I inserted technology in there because that's the way I read it. This is from the Defense Innovation Board SWAP report in 2019. I put this in here to call attention to, this is not a new concept. The software acquisition pathways that were called out as a result of that, that were created as a result of that, have already shown an ability to move quickly into operational outcomes by objective-based acquisition, whether it's software acquisition pathway, CSOs, or OTAs, leaning into that and integrating in that the operational outcomes tied with modeling and SIM ecosystems and environments, continual training, continual learning, feedback loops from those operational systems, tying back into those operational systems such that, into the training and integrated in those operational systems such that we can get real-time updates on how our systems are actually performing and meeting the operational outcomes is a key to being able to provide the accountability that's needed in this new acquisition reform ecosystem, that requirements are not just requirements for requirements' sake. Lastly, I'm going to say where we're going, we don't need roads. This is my favorite quote around the idea of jumping curves. It doesn't make any sense to build a faster car if where you're going, you don't need roads. And so with that, I'm going to prognosticate for what we're all going to be talking about this time next year, which is making way for world models. If you haven't been reading up on Jan LeCun and some of the work that the creators of some of the first generative AI platforms came out with, they've been studying world models the last 3 or 4 years. This is important for this community, not only for the advancement in unsupervised learning and breaking free of some of the plateauing that we're seeing from generative AI, but then also the profound integrations with robotics and autonomy in a space that's going to change human-machine teams to not just be a software-centric ecosystem, but a cyber-physical system. And with that, my time is up, so I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Annie Little.